Hi, everyone. My name is Gisella Vasquez, and I just wanted to say thank you to Unemployed Pinoy CEO for having me. And it was such a pleasure to be a guest on this show. And thank you to Francis and the whole team. And I really appreciate all the questions that were asked because it really gave the viewers an idea about who I am, what I do, and the value that we provide. And so I just wanted to say much appreciated to everyone that is viewing, and most especially to the host Francis San Diego for having me. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Unemployed Pinoy CEO. I am your host, Francis San Diego. Today's episode is another special day for me. I have a very good friend of mine who is a nurse, registered nurse, and with just one freak accident changed the course of her professional life. Allow me to introduce you, Miss Gisella Vasquez. Hi, G.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Francis.
Nice. Finally, we met, huh? So this is the first time, guys, that we met. So I'm not surprised that she's tall. She's like really tall, right? So anyway. Okay, so G, let's cut to the chase, and maybe you could give our viewers, introduce who you are and what do you do for a living.
Okay, thank you. My name is Gisella Vasquez, and I previously was a registered nurse. I worked at City of Hope before transitioning into what I do now, which is in business and in finance. And if you want to know a little, the longer version of my story, I was actually born in New York. My mom is a doctor. My dad is a master mechanic at Lexus, and me and my brother were only 11 months apart. Living in the Philippines, coming to America was not an easy job for them, right? They didn't really know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
They thought that things would be easy, working night shift and day shift. But then we actually moved to Florida when I was 2, and then we moved to Cebu when I was 10 because my dad wanted to put up his own business.
Oh, in the Philippines.
In the Philippines,
right?
in Cebu, Philippines. Yes.
So what did your dad put up as a business, though?
So he put up his own car shop, like body repair, paint, because he was a master mechanic at Lexus. So when he moved to Cebu, he put up that business. He was known as the specialist for American and foreign vehicles. So he was the only one in Cebu at that time.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So that was like, what year is it, if you remember?
1997.
1997.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was 10 years old.
Wow, you were 10 years old at that time. Well, we're not going to mention about what age I'm at that time. So anyway, so that's interesting because so you said earlier that you were born in New York, right? So at that time, during the course of time, when you're growing up, when you were here, how was it back then when both of your parents are like working, right? So obviously they work 2 jobs or whatever. So what is it like if you remember what's
Growing
happening?
up?
Yeah, growing up.
It's interesting because I have a really good long-term memory. I remember as far as 3 years old.
Wow. Okay.
So, growing up, it was always like, where's mom when dad was around? Because my mom worked night shift, and then where's dad when mom is around? It was never a time when we're all together at the same time because they had to obviously make sacrifices in order to give me and my brother a better life. And I think that goes for a lot of families today, right?
Yes. It's like common here, especially in the US, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, when you were at that young time, right? You were young. Then do you remember when your family decided to go to the Philippines? Because definitely it's going to be a different scenario.
Yeah, me and my brother had a feeling, because my mom and dad were, obviously they didn't include us in the conversation or the decision making at that time because we were very young. But I remember them talking about it, and me and my brother overheard, and we were kind of sad and shocked in the beginning, like, what is life going to be like in the Philippines? That's like a whole different environment and everything. But at the same time, I was excited because we were going to be with our cousins. Growing up in Florida, it was, I would say it's very different compared to growing up in Cebu.
Correct. Yeah.
Because it's the dynamics and the environment and the school and the my parents were more present in Cebu than they were in Florida.
Or US to be exact, right?
Yes, and when we were living in Florida, we always were dropped off at a babysitter's house.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas for in Cebu, it was my grandparents or my parents that were actually picking us up.
Somebody is with you all the time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, definitely it's part of Filipino culture that if both parents are working, there's one of the relatives or maybe like yaya, or right?
Yeah.
Definitely. So now, when you were like growing up, do you remember when was what happened to the business of your dad though?
Yes, actually, so my parents, when we first moved to the Cebu, we actually lived in my grandparents' house, and the property next to my grandparents' house was vacant, and that's where my dad built his business. Okay. So it was convenient because the business was there, then the house was just next door.
Correct.
And it was actually good, is because my dad was able to spend more time with me and my brother, versus us growing up in Florida. He would just pick us up and drop us off to school.
Yes.
So his business did very well, where he expanded into 3 other locations at that time.
Within Cebu?
Within Cebu and Bacolod.
Oh,
actually.
Okay, Cebu and Bacolod. So when your family or your dad expanded, definitely it takes a lot of time as well. So did you experience or remember that your dad is getting busier and he's out of the most of the time now?
Yes and no. Yes, in a sense, in the beginning when he was starting, and you have to put more time and effort as a business owner. But I think he built his business in a way where there's a system in place already, where he has people that are actually working for him. So it was running smoothly, and it was giving him the ability to expand more and grow. With the system that he put in place, basically.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So I guess at the time, what age are you at right now? At that time when your dad is let's say that it's getting successful or something.
So I was 10. I was probably like 15.
Oh, okay, 15, so you pretty much like remember what's going on, right? So okay, so did your dad even taught you how to like really run the business, or what is he doing, something like that?
It's interesting because I was actually the one who was supposed to take over of all of our family businesses.
Are you the eldest?
No, I'm the youngest.
Oh, the youngest. Okay.
It's either you become a doctor, or you
business owner,
or you continue the business from the family business. So my dad always told me growing up, because I would always follow, go with him to meetings, and I would, watch how he interacted with his employees and everything, and how he built his business and how a great leader he was. So I learned a lot by watching him and through his experience. That's how I learned about business. And he would always say to me, this is going to be yours one day. So you better learn now, right? You better learn now. And, so my parents would have me work in the office, answer calls, learn about accounting, and about how to be a leader, and how to run a business, like be a good, example to your employees, and the culture of a great business. That's what I learned. I learned that a lot from my dad.
So at that time, you were like really trained as early as 15 to somehow, run the whole business.
I would say in a sense, yes. But the thing was, I was not really into cars.
Oh, yes, I know. So definitely, what was your mindset at that time, if you remember? Like, let's say, because for me, definitely, when my dad was like teaching me to run the business, I am not paying attention because I like to do different stuff. So maybe you can share to our viewers was your mindset at that time when your dad was teaching you those, if you can remember, and share it.
Yes, actually, I actually wanted to become a chef. Oh. I wanted to become a chef. My grandma taught me how to cook, and I loved cooking and baking. And I told my mom and my dad I want to go to culinary school. And my mom's face was like, no. She was just like upset that I even wanted to become a chef.
Okay.
And she said, the only way you make, chefs don't really make money. The only way you can make money as a chef is by
Owning
your own
restaurant,
business
yeah.
or restaurant, or working for a very prestigious hotel with a like 5-star Michelin rated restaurant, right?
Correct.
So I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And she said, why don't you just become a nurse? And I said, well, I didn't want to become a nurse at that time. And she said, because a nurse can always be a businesswoman, but a businesswoman can never be a nurse.
Correct.
So I said, okay, I'm going to give in to her request. I'll become a nurse. So I finished school I graduated from Cebu Doctors University in Cebu. And at 20 years old, then I came out here to LA. And a lot of people ask me, why LA? When I lived in New York and I lived in Florida in the beginning, right? I said, it's the fastest way going back home because it's actually only 12 hours.
Correct.
Versus Florida, it's like 22 hours.
22 hours, yes, definitely. So now when you decided to come over here to finish your studies, right? Or to continue the education?
Actually, I graduated from, like I said, from Cebu. I didn't take the board in Cebu. I went straight to take the NCLEX.
Okay.
And I had my first job here working for a facility in Glendora, California. And that's where I learned a lot about being a nurse.
Okay.
And then I, wanted to excel in different departments. So I started working as a charge nurse. Then I started working in ICU. Then I ended up in my dream hospital that I loved working for, which is City of Hope.
City of Hope, yes, which is where you ended up, right?
Yes, and I worked in the ICU for quite some time.
Nice. So when you came in here, did you come with did you go with your brother or your parents?
My mom came with me.
Okay.
She said, I'm only going to stay with you for 3 months.
Okay.
But it was a lot of culture shock because I didn't know how to drive. I didn't drive. I knew how, but I didn't drive in Cebu. So I had to relearn how to drive here, which was actually pretty easy compared to driving in the Philippines,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
I didn't wash,
dishes.
Yeah. So I knew how to, but becoming independent here on my own was a real, I wouldn't,
shocker,
not really shocker, but I think it was a learning experience because it felt different being independent, which was, I think, contributed to the growth and, me being on my own, which is being sheltered in the Philippines was like, everything was there. And then you come out here, you're like, you get to burst out of your bubble. And it was a good experience because it taught me a lot about myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned about that, you thought about yourself, right? So with being an independent person here, what did you reveal or realize about yourself?
I realized that, you can do anything you set your mind to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
the only limit you have is yourself.
Okay. So yeah, that's great. That's a great quote, guys. I love it. So thanks, G, for sharing that. So now going back to moving forward. So you mentioned about being a nurse, right? So now maybe you can tell us about the story, your journey from like I mentioned earlier in the introduction, that you had this freak accident. If you can share to us, because that's the reason why we're going to share this with G or Gisella, is that because she has like some tough decisions that she made during the course of time. So
yes,
you can share it.
So I was working 3 jobs as a nurse, and my initial mindset was, let me work as hard as I can now so that I can retire early. So right in the beginning, I wanted to become a chef, right? That was my goal, was to save money and put up my own restaurant in the Philippines, which I did in 2014. It was called Mrs. Jones because it was on Jones Avenue,
nice,
near the hospital and the school. And honestly, I didn't know anything like formal training about business. I just did it because I was so eager and impulsive, and I said, I'm going to do this no matter what, because I wanted to prove to my mom that I could do it, that it's what I was meant to do, right? So that was 2014. And as I was working as a nurse, when you're young, you don't really think about the future, right? You just say, I'll cross the bridge when I get there, right? So I was living life, kind of I wouldn't say recklessly, but I was enjoying it. I was enjoying it. I was going out, having fun with friends, traveling, and it's been 7 years. I think it's been 7 years. Back in 2014, I actually got into a bad car accident. I got T-boned in the intersection. My spine got misaligned. I have a tear on my C5 and 6, which causes numbness and tingling, and sometimes I can't feel my arms and my hands.
Up to now?
Up till now, because it's a non-operable tear on my cervical spine.
Okay.
And then 6 months after my accident, because as I got T-boned in the intersection, when you push somebody, right? When you push somebody, you're supposed to bounce back, right? You fall down on the floor, right? So my car did like a bounce back motion where my seat belt was, when the car hit me here, my body kind of like flew to the right side, and then my seatbelt yanked me back down to the left side.
So it's like split like that. It's opposite directions.
So then my head hit the window on my side,
left side,
on the driver's side. Yeah. And 6 months after, I ended up having seizures, like chronic seizures. I would faint like randomly and lose consciousness. And so when I had done some testing and procedures, actually found out that I had seizures, most probably due to the trauma, the brain injury from the impact of the accident. Then during that time, I actually thought nursing was my whole life. The mistake I made, I believe, and I didn't realize it until then, that I allowed my profession to become my identity. And that's what was the hardest, because when that was gone, I didn't really know who I was.
Because you put all of your effort, everything in
that's all
nursing.
I knew.
Yeah,
that's all I knew.
That's your life.
That was my life. That's how I knew how to make money, how to care for. Basically, that my profession was who I was, and that was kind of a turning point for my life as well. Is because, we should never put our identity into worldly things or into our profession, because we are a child of God, and our identity should be in Him. And that was a turning point where I found myself, and I was at a very dark place, and people helped me get out of that dark place by bringing me back to my faith. And that's, if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would be actually. Yeah.
Wow, that's sorry to hear about the accident. I mean, that's so tragic. I mean, nobody wants somebody to be hurt, right? So now, like you shared about this, and by the way, thank you for sharing that one.
You're welcome.
I know it's like really sensitive, but yeah, definitely we do appreciate you sharing it to our viewers. Now, definitely, like I said earlier, there's a turning point that you mentioned. So what are the next steps that you have in mind? Because I know definitely it's hard, because you just realize that nursing is not just you, right, as an identity. What was the thought process for you at that time?
And thank you for asking, because I think a lot of people don't talk about this enough. And mental illness is actually a very big situation. And I never really understood how my patients felt, or what my patients were thinking, or what they were internalizing emotionally, until I became a patient, or until I became in that certain situation.
You're in the other side.
I'm on the other side.
Correct.
Where that was kind of like eye-opening to me, is because I was like, now I get it, and, when I was at a point of making money, like, I made at least almost $200,000 a year working 3 jobs as a nurse. From making that much to going to zero, you become very humbled.
Yeah.
It's very humbling. But I believe that God allows things to happen in your life, not because He doesn't love you or anything, but it's to lead you to where He wants you to be.
A better path, a better
path.
position. Yes. I agree.
And my thought process at that time, was, it's either two options: I sink or I swim.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And it wasn't an easy journey, because being here by myself, without my family, and my mom is the type, although I love my mom and I'm learning how to love her the way she knows how to, because, growing up, her parents were very strict. So she's very stoic, she's very strict and she doesn't show emotions much, right? So any sign of weakness coming from her children is like not a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a point where I became very depressed. I didn't talk to anyone. And I think at that time I just wanted a hug or somebody tell me it was going to be okay, right? Because at 20, and I think I was 26 at that time. I was 26 at that time, and I kind of just shut off to the world. And it can get very scary.
Yes,
and
definitely.
That's why I advocate now about reaching for mental illness and helping people get through their traumatic experiences, is because if nobody's there to help people at that stage of their thought process, it could go a very
south.
Deep,
it can go down
deep,
south.
Yeah, it can go down a whole different path.
Yes.
And sometimes it leads to I hate to say suicide. Because,
yes. Well, definitely that's the one common thing. And by the way, one of our previous episode, our guest is which is Dr. Peter Morante.
Oh, yes, I heard of his.
He's really
watched his.
Great guy. Shout out to Doc Morante. Hope to see you soon. So he's really good. He's really a big advocate of mental illness. So I know, definitely getting back to your story, definitely mental illness is really, a lot of people are not like really taking it seriously because the others who are affected by it are like really suffering.
Yes.
And the other ones who don't have it, they don't understand how to talk to them, right?
Exactly.
So,
and just to answer your question, the thought process is, I think I came to a point where I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, I have no clue who this person is, right? I lost myself, physically. I was looked like a skeleton. Spiritually, I was lost. Financially, because I let things fall through the cracks. I didn't, I wasn't paying attention to things I should have paid attention to financially. At the same time, mentally, I was kind of lost. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I just, I broke down and cried and I said, and I literally on my knees and said, God, just help me. I know I can't do this anymore, by myself.
Correct.
And that's when, like I mentioned earlier, I found my faith again. And that was the biggest turning point, I believe, of that whole, of everything. And it led me to what I do now. And, and I just, thank you for allowing me to share my story, is because
yes, we love the stories. Definitely. This is what we're here for, because every business owner has a story, right? So yeah, definitely for that one. Now I'm curious to ask you about the turning point. What's it like to make that decision? Like, let's say, enough is enough. I got to do something. Do you have that same, decision that you made?
Yes.
If you remember.
I remember it clearly. I was actually I think I was in the bathroom, the mirror in the bathroom, and I said, I have to do something. This cannot go on any longer. Because I think everybody comes to a point where they have, if you're hit rock bottom, there's nowhere else to go but up.
Exactly. I agree with you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I believe all business owners came to a point with like that. You have to make a decision whether you sink, like you said, or you swim. And definitely everybody has a journey. They have the choice. Then, unfortunately, not all will choose the right path, right? So now let's go to the more positive side, right? You made a decision. If you remember it clearly, if you can share it to us, what was the first step you did? Like, okay, I got to do something. What's the first step? If you remember it correctly, right now, if you remember it right now.
Okay, so the first step, when anybody wants to make a change in their life, the first step is awareness, right? So being aware of my circumstances, forgiving myself, accepting that this is where it's at. I can't go back. Stop being in denial. It's like I said, you got to tell yourself it's either you sink or swim. So being aware was the first step, right? And then looking at the circumstances and seeing, okay, what can I do now? And fortunately, before my accident, which I'm very thankful for, A good friend of mine actually sat down with me before me, getting into an accident and having seizures and everything. Then we sat down and we went over, my life goals and my financial plan, and and it was something that was very eye opening, is because nobody really talks to you about this, especially in nursing. They don't talk about money, or they don't talk about how to save for retirement, or how to prepare for an unexpected event or circumstance in your life. So I was thankful for that opportunity, and at the same time, as I was learning, I said, man, a lot of people need to know about this. So as I was going through my decision making, I was like, what can I do? Because I love to help people, but what else can I do that will make a bigger impact in people's lives? I mean, there has to be a reason for this happening to me, and I think one of the reasons is God let me experience all those things so that I can relate to more people as I help them.
Right, and that humbling experience, like you mentioned,
yes.
Definitely, God. I believe that God will put you in the position where, okay, if I let you continue on you're losing yourself through that nursing profession, you're not gonna be the best person that you can be.
Yeah.
So I gotta put a stop onto this and let you go into the right course, which is right.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. So now, if you remember, after that accident, you're trying to recover. Did you go to that person again and get back to them, or?
Yes. So how it happened was, I said, okay, maybe this is God's sign, or this is God's way of telling me that I should really take a look at this opportunity, because now I still want to help people, but maybe not in the nursing or medical field. Maybe it's going to be in a different industry. So obviously I prayed, and things started happening and coming as far as opportunities, doors started to open. So I did go back to the person that actually introduced it to me, and I said, okay, I want to see how I can be more involved. And the good thing about the environment and the culture that they have with the where I work now, and the organization, is that they really poured belief in me. Yes. They poured belief, and that's what kind of attracted me even more to keep showing up at trainings. And I knew it was going to be something that was not in my in
forte,
in
right?
my forte, or
yes.
it was nothing that I really went to. I didn't even go to school for it, but it was easy enough for me to learn and grasp, because I believed so much in what they do and how they help people. And that's what makes me excited every day, is because, we're able to educate and really, help somebody. Like, if nobody helped me during my time, things would have been way different, right?
Yes.
It would have been way different. And then you learn along the way, and it was I believe it's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Well, you certainly did, because where you ended up is where we're going to talk about in a few minutes, guys. So now that you shared to us that side of the story of yours, you're totally transition, right? So now, when you're doing this right now, maybe we can share to our viewers, what are you doing currently right now? So you mentioned about you being associated with a financial firm. Can you please share to us, what exactly are you doing?
Okay, thank you for asking. So we work with 250 companies in the financial industry, rated A and above, and we do everything from debt management to life insurance to retirement to tax solutions to long-term care, living benefits, estate planning, business solutions, anything that you can think of in the financial realm or industry. We're like a one-stop shop that literally you can get anything that you need when it comes to money. So any questions that somebody had or concerns, we're your go-to people that literally you can get the answers, the resources, the products, the plans that you're looking for, that normally people would not get when they go to a regular financial firm. Because the big financial firms like Charles Schwab, Merrill Lynch, they only help the wealthy. Whereas for us, we help everybody with a heartbeat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, definitely. Having said that, what type of specialty do you help? Like, is there a certain group that you help with?
So, being a nurse, one of my specialty actually is helping medical professionals because I feel like, I can speak their language and I know what they're going through. I know exactly what they're experiencing, the challenges and the problems that they're dealing with, and I've been able to help out many nurses, medical professionals, plan for a better financial future. And just to give you an example, like when I spoke earlier about debt management, just to give you an example of a client that we just helped out last week. She has $60,000 in credit card bills, right? That's a lot for credit cards, right?
Correct.
And guess how much she was paying every month on minimum?
Maybe like 5,000.
Yeah,
That's so much.
She was actually paying $1,700 a month minimum. That was just minimum. Now most people don't know how to pay off their debt. They don't have an end goal. So what we were able to do is we put a plan together for her to eliminate her debt, and we enrolled her in a program which would consolidate all of her credit cards into one. And instead of paying $1,700 a month, she now only paid $700 a month, giving her $1,000 to now save instead of that money going towards the bank. It went back to her.
Oh, okay.
So that's like one example of what we're able to do for clients. It can be credit card debt, medical bill debt, tax debt, student loan debt. We're able to assess and kind of put together a strategy on how to get out of debt and eliminate debt.
Oh, okay. That's
and there's
nice.
other things that we do as well. That's just in one example.
Okay.
And it just depends on where you're at, what your goals are, what you're wanting to achieve, what you currently have. Maybe most people have something, but they don't know how it works. They don't know what it does or what it's going to provide them.
Okay. So, for example, I'm a nurse, right? So, like you mentioned earlier, I'm just going to make a role play with you,
Okay.
right? So, you mentioned earlier that you're earning I'm working 3 jobs or 3 shifts, right? And I'm earning 200K. I love to buy cars. I love to buy jewelry. I love to buy anything, right? How can you help me?
Okay. So as a nurse, and depending if you're married or single, let's give one example first, like single, right? Obviously it's only you that you're thinking about, right? You probably want to have the nice things because you worked so hard for it. You want to enjoy, you buy the Louis Vuitton, you have the nice Mercedes Benz, you have a house. But the problem is, even though you have all those luxury things, there's nothing wrong with having it. But as long as you're saving and building something towards the future is something that you got to think about. So for somebody that's single, that's making that much money, one of the biggest problems that they have is taxes. And that was me before, making, I didn't own a home back then. I don't have any kids. My only tax shelter was my 401k, which most people don't really understand how it works or what it does. And I was actually putting in this, just to give an example, I was putting in 17% of my income, right? And I realized only when I sat down with somebody that I was getting matched 1%.
Oh,
that's a big difference.
That's a big difference.
So when we sit down with a nurse, when we sit down with a single nurse, we want to take a look at what they're currently doing. What plans do they have in place for retirement? What are their goals? When do they want to retire? Do they have an emergency fund? Are they diversified? How much are they getting taxed? Do they get a tax refund? So that when we sit down and do a strategy for them or a roadmap, we take all of those things into consideration. Because one of the challenges that most nurses have, and this is just based on experience, is that they think that once that they can make up the money, they spend the money. They spend their money, right? Because they know that they can make that up working an extra shift. But in my case, what if that extra shift doesn't come anymore?
Yes.
What's your plan then? Do you have a backup plan? Are you properly protected? Is the insurance at work, is it going to provide you the right protection if anything were to happen? God forbid an unforeseen circumstance happen. Is it the right type of plan that will provide you, this chronic illness or critical illness, terminal illness? A lot of times people have no clue what these are,
Yes.
right? And they continue to pay something every month, or it's getting deducted from their paycheck, and they don't even know what they're paying for.
Like, let's make an example, right? So definitely for me, I have my parents, right? I wanted them to retire, like they're in the retirement stage, obviously. So how can you help my parents? Like, let's say they've been working so hard, but they don't have any, like, let's say, savings or whatever. So if you can give me an idea or share to us, what will be your strategy or your advice to, like, let's say, my parents?
Okay. So for people that are about to retire, you actually have to work backwards. Okay. So you have to see, okay, how much do I need? Expenses wise, what do I have in place? So how much do I need? How much are my bills? We have to get to that number. And then from there, we're going to actually see what do we have in place already that we can align with how much we need, right? Because there's going to be different sources in retirement. There's going to be Social Security. There's going to, if they have a pension or they have a 401k, how much is that money going to provide us every month in retirement? And how much how long is it going to last? So in your case, for your parents, when I sit down with them, I would ask them, okay, what are their monthly expenses? Are they in debt? If they are, we try to get rid of the debt so that can free up cash flow, right? Do they have any existing retirement accounts from previous jobs or previous employers, so that we can all take a look at it holistically and plug and play as far as what will all of those accounts provide us. Now, if it's just a simple situation, as far as, let's say they have a 401k, right? Let's say, so let me ask, do they have a 401k?
I believe they don't.
Okay. Yeah. So for someone who does not have a 401k, then it might be a little bit challenging. We really have to look at different options, and different sources, or, really help them right now create cash flow.
Yes.
Because that's the challenge with most people, is that they have, people that are in retirement age, they haven't saved enough for retirement.
Correct.
So what happens? They end up working forever.
Yes, I know. So yeah, that's why I'm also working hard to kind of like somehow help them.
Right?
Yes, definitely.
But for somebody that does have a 401k, or like has saved for retirement, we have to, when we sit down with them, we have to take a look. Okay, what can we offer? What recommendation, depending on what their goal is? Let's say they want to make sure that they never run out of money. We would put together a program and a plan that will actually offer them guaranteed income for life. Okay. And with most retirees, because that's the biggest challenge that they have, is running out of money. And the second biggest challenge that they have is, if I get sick and I don't die, what will happen? Where will my money come from?
Correct.
Right. And that's where most people don't understand the implications of long-term care or chronic illness, living benefits. So that's what we really educate people about, so that they can have that protection even as early as now. And to go back to even my own experience, right? Living benefits and long-term care was not approved until 2014 in California.
In California?
So in California, right? So I didn't get I got my plan for myself before my accident, which was, thank God, that was something, I got that. But after my accident, it was very hard for me to get anything, is because I have pre-existing conditions.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, it's hard. It's harder.
Yeah, so I always encourage people, doesn't matter how young or how old, the best time to start something is now, because we never know what tomorrow will bring.
What do you think? Why do you think that most people, I believe that you will agree with me, but most people are like ignoring it right now? Why do you think it is?
I guess because
are they scared? What's a common?
Most likely, it's fear of, or what you don't know, right?
Yes.
So if they're, it's always good to be open-minded. Sometimes people only think about these things is when something has happened emotionally, or something close to home, or they're themselves.
It's like regret, right?
Yes.
They regret that they didn't get it, or they didn't listen to whoever is the financial expert, right?
But I always encourage people, don't wait. Don't wait until something happens just to make a decision. If you're in a position where you want to learn, do it now, because now is the best time.
Okay.
Right?
Now, yeah. Okay.
Now is the best time.
Now, this is really great stuff, guys. Then I'm like really for me, obviously for me, I did get myself some policy with this young lady, and our very good friend. So definitely for me, I would encourage everyone to please at least be educated in the financial aspect of whatever we're trying to do, because like Gisella mentioned, if you don't know what you don't know, right? So you gotta please be educated, and at the same time you can reach out Gisela in this type of how do we say it, like financial education,
Yeah.
right?
And I also wanted to add, because you deal with a lot of business owners, right? And
Yes.
your audience you have a lot of business owners. Business owners, one of the challenges that they have is they they're always focused on their business, right? And that's normal, because all entrepreneurs are always trying to
Correct.
grow their business. But the one thing that they miss is how to protect their business that they're growing,
You
right?
know what? You gave me an idea right now. So definitely, we're in a this show is about business owners, right? So
Yeah.
now let's say we'll get an example, right? I'm a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
startup, or like let's say maybe I've been running my business for like 3-5 years. How can you help me, my business, protect my business and
Okay.
whatsoever? So
So let's say if it's different scenarios. Let's say it's a
solopreneur,
solopreneur, right? Obviously, if they're building something, God forbid something happened to them, what happens to the business? You either there's what we call business succession planning, right? So
oh,
that you
okay,
can hand it down properly to your beneficiaries, right? Or
okay,
let's say you become disabled, as in you are the main person in your business. What's gonna pay you if you can't work anymore,
correct,
right?
yeah, yes,
So that's one thing that we do. Now, let's say there's a partnership, right? God forbid something happened to one of the partners, right? Now, since you own 50-50 of the business, you are now in business with the other person's either spouse
correct,
or beneficiaries.
mm-hmm.
Now, most businesses don't have the capital in the beginning, if they're new, to buy out their other partner.
Correct,
So we have plans such as buy-sell agreement, that in the event of any any unfortunate event happen, one of the partners dies, that there's
mm-hmm.
legal programs in place that will, or plans in place that will actually help the partner that's left behind buy out the share without coming into any financial hardships themselves. So, and then that's another way. And then
So let me ask you this. So in your experience right now, since you've been in the financial industry for how many years now?
it's been almost, I think it's 7 years. I believe 7 years.
7 years,
Wow.
right? In your own experience, do you think that there's a huge opportunity for business owners that hasn't like really tapped, what you're trying to preach right now?
Oh yeah, definitely, because they have most business owners have no clue what they're doing, if I were to say,
Yes,
because
yes.
it's the last thing that they want to think about.
Yes,
You know,
because I think the I mean for me also I think it's like an added expense, but definitely you don't have to think like that, right?
not at all. And
Not
that's
at
what I
all.
love to show business owners, is
Yes,
because, you know, they think it's an added expense, but if
yes.
we can show them
Why it's not an
why it's
expense?
not,
Yeah,
and how it's going to be actually beneficial,
mm.
because it could become a tax deduction
There
on
you
your
go.
profit. And at the same time, rather than paying Uncle Sam,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because obviously business owners will pay taxes every quarter or every year.
Correct.
What if we can put that money that you normally pay Uncle Sam every year, obviously because of your taxes, if you were able to put that money back into your company, your business, your employees,
Mm-hmm.
instead of paying Uncle Sam, it goes back to growing your company.
Business, correct.
It,
Yeah.
it it's a no-brainer, right?
Yes, yes,
And
yeah, definitely.
and especially if you're in business with your family or your spouse,
Mm.
even more
That you have to,
benefits,
yeah.
even more benefits that we can provide you.
Mm-hmm.
We do employee benefits, for retirement benefits for employers. We were just able to help out a doctor a few months ago, where he thought he can only contribute to his retirement up to the max of SEP IRA, which is an individual retirement account for self-employed individuals. We put together a plan for him where he can now fund his retirement, and deduct the money that he puts into his retirement about 285,000 instead of the
Gosh.
normal $50,000 that somebody could put into their SEP IRA. Now imagine if he's making $1 million a year, right, and his expenses, let's say, are 500,000.
Like
He's still
half, yeah.
he's still paying 500,000 taxes on 500,000. Now what we did is 285 of that 500,000, we put it into his own private pension plan that will pay him for life when he retires. But that 285 is now deductible on his taxable income that he has to, now he pays less to Uncle Sam because he just rerouted his money into a pension plan that we were able to put together for him.
Well, that's amazing to know that, even the wealthiest don't know it yet.
Yes.
Right? So it's really fun and really great golden nuggets that we have right now, guys. So, I mean, I guess all we can say is like, we got to get educated as early as now. Be open, I guess. I learned it also through her and our very good friend, Miss Wendy Lindo, that we do need to get educated before we make a decision, or like have an open mind at least. That way you should try to learn and how to know the ins and outs of handling your own money.
Yes,
Work for you.
Because at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, does your employer, do they care about you financially?
No.
Sometimes, we'd like to think that, right?
No,
but at the end of the day,
definitely not. It's all, they only think about themselves. Correct.
And then we have to ask ourselves, does the government think about us financially?
Definitely no.
So who should really care about what happens to us financially?
Us.
Right now, we're in the business of helping people and educating people about how money works. And at the same time, we also are a leadership development company where we want to help others, grow their leadership and, expand throughout the whole United States, how we can be a force and a movement to really bring financial education and literacy into the homes of middle income families and people that don't get the information. Because I don't know, Francis, you would agree with me, I'm pretty sure that they don't teach it to us in school, right?
Nope, not at all. Then that's why right now, definitely, I just to share with you guys, I believe in Gisella, or G. I call her G all the time. So she really is very knowledgeable. That's why it makes sense that she's a great leader, and she's like really a great advocate and educator. Because when she was explaining everything to me, it like totally makes sense. She doesn't complicate things the way others are doing, like they sugarcoating everything and so on and so forth. With her, she's just gonna straight you the simplest terms. That way for everyone to, understand, right? So yeah, maybe I guess what I'm going to ask you is, so obviously there's a lot of people who doesn't believe it or doesn't pay attention. Maybe you can share to our viewers, like let's say, how can your current profession right now, can help them right now as early as now?
Yes, thank you. Obviously, especially nowadays with everything that's happening in the world, it's very challenging, financially. Everybody in the community is either experiencing a financial hardship, or people are living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe they're in debt. They don't know what to do to get ahead financially. So how we help them is, number one, we want to get to know you. We want to get to know your goals, where do you see yourself? What's your current situation? And we want to educate you about what you can do to, grow your money, number one. Number two, keep your money safe, because at the end of the day, we want to protect it, and how to minimize your taxes, because Uncle Sam will always have his share. He's our silent business partner, right? But if we can teach you ways to minimize your taxable income and teach you ways to put more money back into your pocket rather than paying Uncle Sam, then why wouldn't you want to learn how, right? And one of the things I love about our company and what we do for families is how we change lives, just by the education, because they say knowledge is power, but knowledge is only power when it's applied. So,
Correct.
The schools don't teach us, the banks don't teach us. So it's in our best interest and, in our favor to learn how money works. And that's what we do. We want to educate and empower you to, make the better decisions financially. And it's no pressure, as long as you are educated, we've kind of done our job. Now it's up to you to, make the better decisions moving forward.
Correct. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of this young lady. So she's really smart. Okay. So now, I mean, I would like to thank you for sharing that. And maybe we can share our viewers also. Where can they follow you, your website or your social media handles? That way, at least, if they're more interested in knowing more what you do and how you can help their families, themselves, whatever individual is needing for some financial education.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm mostly active on Instagram. My handle is Gisella Marie Vasquez _. So that's GISELLA MARIE Vasquez VASQUEZ _. And then I'm on Facebook. My website is gisellavasquez.com. If you wanted to text my business phone number is 310-597-1350. And I look forward to getting to know you and to see how we can help in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, thank you. And I love. What's your favorite quote? We saw that one quote that you have. I know that you have a favorite quote that you want to share.
I have a few favorite quotes.
There we go. Yeah, you can start one. Maybe you can inspire one of our guests here about your quote.
Okay, so as you can see on the screen, it does say "Dream, believe, do, repeat." But one of my favorite quotes is, "You make a living by what you get, but you make a life by what you give." And at the end of the day, the more you give, obviously the more you receive. But always being value to other people wherever you go, bring value. Help people, because if you can help as many people get to where they want to be, eventually you're going to get to where you want to be.
Alrighty. Wow. Sounds really great. Again, thank you very much, G, for being one of my great guests here in Unemployed Pinoy CEO. And hopefully we can see you again soon. Definitely we'll be around, and definitely to share. We have a same common interest in what we're trying to do in the
Thank you so much, Francis, and to all
me and
the viewers.
Christina are thankful to know you.
Yes, also to you and Christina and your family and everything. So it's a pleasure to be here and to be associated with you and your family.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, this is another exciting edition, and hopefully we gave you some great value. A lot of golden nuggets that you can get from this young lady, Gisella. And again, this is Francis San Diego, and I'm your Unemployed Pinoy CEO.